in mind, guys, let's go back to this slide here. See how important, I want you all to really understand how important water. We talked about the food storage, but the food storage, why I want to really differentiate and put an emphasis on the water as well, is that the food storage is, let's call it, more practical in the sense. You could hold food and move it from one area to the next. And before you do that, you do your cleaning in one area, you do your cleaning in the next area. Food doesn't flow technically, but water flows. And the flow of anything is faster to do a transference of pathogens. And trust me on this one. As a chemist, that's my background, that's my forte, that's my strength. Anything in solution becomes more difficult to handle. But because we are so accustomed with water as humans, we take water for granted. Water is taken for granted in terms of where we need to house it, how we need to utilize it, how we need to clean it, how we need to disinfect it. We take all of those things for granted, and we really shouldn't if we are trying to improve the livestock that we have and the farms that we have, okay, in general. So let's go and talk now about the water quality systems. So the water quality checks, which would include your water quality systems, would be testing and quality checks. Now, Mr. Sanchez was really supposed to do this piece, but his forte, but I will explain to you exactly what you need to do. So testing and quality checks. Now, we are going to tell you here for testing and quality checks to make sure and do those tests. Those tests cost money. We don't do those tests particularly. You have to use them at a lab. And some of you all will think, oh gosh, boy, I have to go and spend a set of money there again just for water. Well, guys, it will be to your detriment if you don't. And the good thing is the water quality tests are not expensive. They are not expensive. All right. You can take a simple sample. You do 3 samples, take it from your water systems, and you carry it to a lab, and they will do a water test. In 3 days, you get back your quality of water testing, and that will immediately identify what pathogens exist in your waterways and in your water storages. Once you can identify what you have there, it of course becomes easier to do your applications. Now, granted, you have an added advantage with BIOTECplus, which is the product that we manufacture, because that across the board eliminates all the different pathogens. But still, guys, as someone who needs to be responsible for teaching you to do the correct things, and someone who is an analytical chemist, for those of you all who don't know, analytical chemistry is about quality chemistry. You have quantity chemistry and you have quality chemistry. Quantity chemistry is identifying how much of something needs to be used. Quality chemistry is identifying why that needs to be used. I cannot, as a manufacturer of a product that you will use, tell you just to go and use the product. That would be wrong of me. What I would like you to do is identify why. Identify why you need to use products. And by doing your lab tests on your water solutions, on your water storages, you can then identify what really is existing in your waterways that can be of detriment to your animals, okay? So testing water is so vital. Costs are minimal when compared to the cost of infections. So the sample water lines every quarter with care taken to avoid the cross-contamination. You don't want cross-contamination. And look, let's put it this way. If we did all of those things that we would have mentioned before, you know, your A, your B, not transferring everything, and then you still have transference or cross-contamination because you didn't pay attention to all the aspects of the water treatment, how terrible would that be? Imagine you went through all the processes, right? All the processes, all the physical processes, and then the water come and cause cross-contamination. That would be horrible, right? So Again, we really want to avoid that cross-contamination. And by identifying with the test, we can really alleviate those problems. Of course, routinely auditing the lines. Sample what is going into the shed prior to the water treatment, and sample the water after the treatment to prove that it is effectively killing the bacteria, and so know that the final quality of quality of your water, right? So guys, again, even though our product is a product to be used, we are telling you here that you need to do your testing before. You need to do your testing afterwards to make sure you're getting the result. Because guess what? Every farm is different. Even though it's the same type of poultry you're using, every farm is different because you know why? Your environment is different. Some of you will need more usage of a product. Some of you will need less of a product. Some of you will need it more consistently, right? So all of these things are necessary to understand. All right, so let's move on. So sites of these infectious disease. We're going to go into the different types. First of all, let me just return very quickly to the original slide here where we spoke of, so that I don't lose you, right? We're talking about the bacteria, the virus, the fungi, and the parasites. So we mentioned within cause of infectious disease, those are the ones that are going to cause the infectious disease. We brought it into the areas, water, food areas. We spoke primarily about the food and the water areas. We spoke about the quality checks to improve your water areas. Now we're going to go into the actual pathogens. So the first of them would be your bacteria. Mr. Sanchez, are you there? Can I let me see if I can hear you, please. I'm not hearing him at all. Oh wow. Okay, that's okay. That's all right. So we're going to talk about the different types of pathogens that we have existing, and we're going to go a little bit in depth, because remember guys, what I mentioned to you in this slide before, what did I say? It is so vital to understand the different types of pathogens. It is so vital. Once we identify with our water, we also need to try to identify physically. And if you look carefully, you will see forms of demarcation on your actual animal. Okay, so without further ado, the fowl cholera is one of those bacteria that is so bad. It is a highly contagious bacteria disease of domestic and wild birds worldwide. It is caused by Pasteurella multocida. It is a gram-negative, non-spore forming rod-shaped bacteria. Now you don't really need to know the science of that aspect, if it's rod-shaped or gram-negative. That is not important. What is important really to you is identification. And that's why you have the picture there. If you are a farmer, you must pay attention. This is also a form of auditing your animal. So you see, you look for those marks, the swollen foot, right? The swollen wattles, the swollen ear, the joints, right? The facial swelling, right? All of those things, even the actual movement, the gait of the animal is very important. You will see them looking far more sluggish, and even their eating habits will tremendously change. Okay, now fowl cholera can be treated with antibiotics through thorough sanitation, rodent control, and a rigorous biosecurity plan. Now again guys, this is in farm. This is a situation where you have already been exposed to this fowl cholera. So remember, we have to go back to what we originally said. You have to identify the animals that are looking like this. Quarantine, isolate, treat, biosecurity plan. Immediately. And this is why regular auditing is important. If you're capable of auditing your farms regularly, which you must, it is a must, then you can identify who is sick, separate them, put your biosecurity plan, which already should have been in place, but now you're going to really ramp it up. All right. And then you will be able to fix this situation. Once you put your biosecurity plan in place for your other animals, for your sick animals separately, you give them your antibiotics, boom, you're in the game. All right. So we want to be able to do that. And I want you all to put your questions in, guys. Make sure to put your questions in. I see a few of them, but honestly, you can't tell me that those are all the questions that you have. Come on, come on, come on. Before I became the analytical chemist and the manufacturer of our product, I was first a teacher. I taught during my university years. And I will tell you something. When you teach a class and you see a few questions, you know that there are so many more questions out there that people want to ask, but they're not sure about. So I want to tell you, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Put your questions out there. Let us address these questions for you. I am happy to do that for you, okay? I will answer all of them. That is absolutely not a problem. And you really, really can't tell me, guys, that you all understand everything I'm saying. I'm sure there are a few cracks, a few slips here and there where you would have said, well, I'm not sure what he's talking about. Let me ask this question. All right. In fact, if you do have if you in the moment you really yeah, right. And of I see a person put up there, they said this will be for you'll make a better sauce, right? And maybe that's true too, right? If you really have a question, a burning question in the moment that you didn't understand, please put your hand up. I will see it and I can address it for you as well, okay? All right, so we're moving on to the viral aspect of it, okay? So that is the bacteria. Now we move on to the viral aspect of it. Now, guys, remember, the bacteria and the virus really traverses differently. The bacteria, you would find it in more of your physical aspects. A virus is by droplet, primarily by droplet. This is why also, I'm just going to touch quickly with the COVID scenario in Trinidad and the world. Viruses only traverse by a droplet, okay? Flu droplet. COVID virus is a flu droplet, right? So you can, if you have your mask on, guys, you're really not going to get COVID unless you touch somebody who has it by their mouth or their face, and then you put that in your eyes and your nose. That's the only way you're going to get it. So if you wear your mask in public areas, in areas where you have a lot of people, that's how you're going to, then you won't get COVID, okay? And similarly, with your animals. Now, your animals, you're not going to put a mask on your animals, of course, right? But what you want to do is, which is why it's very important, if you audit and you identify your animals that have a viral form, avian flu, for example, right? Then you need to then separate them. Just give me 1 second, guys. 1 second. Just give me 1 second, guys. All right, I'm back. Yeah. Okay. So then you need to separate them, and then of course you need to do your protocols, and of course you need to use your medication that you would have for your animals. Okay. So effects of viruses. And this is how you need to identify which ones are sick, right? So this is why we are touching on these heavily. There's stunting of your animals. There's a gut disease that they would have, which means that they would have malabsorption, and they would also have. So let's just before we go on to the respiratory aspect, the stunting comes really primarily from your gut disease. Your gut disease will not allow the food that they're eating to be absorbed properly. So therefore, they're not going to grow properly. You're going to see smaller livestock, and you'll be able to recognize that as well. And it will not take long, because why? Remember, the lifespan of these animals is shorter. So you find that the growth period is faster. So if you can identify that within the growth period, that your livestock is not getting bigger, is not looking as healthy as it should, then you know you have an issue. All right, so these things to audit: respiratory diseases, syndromes, and immune suppression, meaning they regularly getting sick, guys. Effective vaccination programs require healthy immune systems. So this is something that you have to put in place as well, right? Because if you're going to have a flock, if you're going to have a farm, or you do have a farm, and you have 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 of your animals in an area, then you know how quickly the virus can be spread across all of that livestock. Okay, now the viral diseases are common and very persistent, and they require a structured biosecurity program. And we will get into it when we get to your farms, but I will touch on something very quickly. In the farms that we've gone to, and we do a lot of work in South America in farms, a lot of work, some massive farms, whether they are pig farms, they are poultry farms, they are cattle farms. What we always explain is that you must have your biomedical disinfectant in either your manual sprayers or your electrical sprayers, and then you walk through your areas housing your livestock, and then you apply it. You apply it on and over them. What it does immediately, it gets onto the surface areas of your livestock. It gets onto the porous and the non-porous areas of your housing of your livestock as well. Gets rid of any viral and bacterial structure, pathogen, and fungal structure that is on there immediately on contact. What that does, it prevents the spread, and then now by isolating, you can then mitigate all of those problems. And again, you do your applications. And what we mean by a biosecurity program, what do we mean by that? It means it's a structured plan or protocol whereby on a weekly basis you go 2 to 3 times, especially when you have infectious disease proliferating in your area, and then you do the applications. And you have different dilutions that you would apply in those areas. All right, so that is very important. I can't begin to stress as to how important the disinfection programs are when you don't have an infectious disease problem, as opposed to also when you do have an infectious disease program, right? So when you don't have the issues, meaning the actual disease, the protocols are going to significantly mitigate. But just like in a human scenario, if you bring an animal that is sick in your area, you're going to get at least 1 or 2 sick, even with your programs. But the programs are going to drop that down, because if you didn't have the program, all of them are going to get sick. And then you're going to lose livestock like, whoa, okay? So let's move on. Sorry, let me just touch on one thing before we move on. How to recognize a sick bird. Guys, very important. Let's look at that on the bottom left-hand corner. Very importantly, boom, sudden death, right? Significant drop in water consumption, a lack of appetite, the energy, or vocalization. Your birds make noise, and it is very healthy if they do, okay? So if they're not doing that, that's a problem. Drop in egg production. Guys, you must know that would be a problem, right? I mean, you would recognize that, hey, why are the birds not really laying? Diarrhea, very important. And you would be able to audit this, guys, if you do your regular cleaning. So you see, all of these things are linked, right? Swollen combs. These, remember, even though they are your livestock, let me just make something very clear for you. What is the whole purpose of this? What is the purpose of this workshop? It is not just about selling and getting profit, you know, guys. It is love. It is love for your animals. It is love for anything that you are taking care of. And if you don't love what you're taking care of, guys, it'll be a waste. When you take care and nurture something, right, that is when you get the best output. When we love our children, we take care of our kids. We strive to put the best food for them. We strive to put the best homes for them. We strive to send them to school and get the best education for them. And once we give them that stability, what do we get in the end? We get successful kids. Similarly, if we have pets, we have dogs, similarly cats, whatever, it's the same thing. And when we have our farms, it is absolutely the same thing. Love for our livestock, taking care of our livestock, right? That is what we need to do, okay? We need to be able to monitor them, see if they're getting sick. You know, we're taking care of their coops. We're cleaning it regularly. We are looking at them. You have your chicken. You look at the eyes of your chicken. You look at the combs of your chicken. Look at the last few points. Swollen combs, swollen wattles, legs, head. Check to see your animals are not feeling well. Very important. Nasal discharges as well. They are sneezing. They do sneeze and cough, right? And the abnormal behavior with the difficulty in their gaits. Gaits meaning how they walk, okay? So you have to look at all of those things, guys. It is so vital that we pay attention to our animals. We give them love. We give them care. We make sure that they get clean water. We make sure that their areas are clean. All right, guys? So we're moving on. So the third one would be the fungi, which we mentioned in the earlier passages, that the fungi would really be the parts where you get the mycotoxins, and the mycotoxins are what destroy the livers of the animals. And once the animals' livers are destroyed, that's it. They're gonna die. Okay? And the mycotoxins really are brought about by mold infections of feed, and particularly in grains. Again, if you have the mycotoxins, you are going to proliferate a liver disease, which means you're going to have adsorption of nutrients affected, particularly protein. What does that mean? The adsorption is, again, let's not use a big word as adsorption. So that's my apologies here. What you want to say is you're just not going to get the absorption, the AB. This is add. This is A. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I'm seeing, that's my bad. It has absorption. Sorry, I don't know what I'm saying there. Absorption of nutrients affected, particularly protein. So you're not going to get the correct absorption. You're not going to get the correct absorption of the proteins that are required to right, okay, great. You're not going to get the correct absorption for the proteins which are really required to build those antibodies and help you fight off and build your immune system. Okay, so liver disease is a big one for the mycotoxins, and mycotoxins are gotten from your fungi, right? Your fungus and your mold. Very importantly, guys, look at the third point, the vaccine. You have already vaccinated your animal, but because of the mold which causes the mycotoxin that has now started to affect the gut area and the liver, what is going to happen is that your vaccine is going to be, the vaccination aspect or the effectiveness of it is going to be reduced significantly. So even though you spend all of that money vaccinating your animals, you've pretty much negated it with the mycotoxin. So vital that you disinfect the storage areas for the food. You disinfect the actual food areas and the foods before they come in and while they are there, and regularly so that you don't get the mycotoxin, okay? And of course, with the problem of mycotoxin in the liver and the gut and the reduction of the vaccine effectiveness, you're going to get secondary infections, right? Increased, example, fungal infections in the gut. And of course, inevitably, you're going to have high mortality rates / death. Okay, guys? So let's moving on. So let me just touch on the top left-hand side. The mycotoxins form either directly by eating infected food or indirectly from animals that are fed that are fed indirectly from animals that are fed by contaminated feed. Mr. Sanchez, are you there? I just want to see if I can hear you. Can you come off the mute so I can hear you? Still can't hear you. Okay, no problem. Right, so now we are going on to the parasites, which is the last of the 4 we mentioned earlier. Just want to see if there some of the questions that you all had. I saw someone come in with the water. Okay, so I will address the one with the water as well after, okay? So the parasites, guys. So this is the last of the 4 that would have been intrinsic in terms of how they affect your farm and your livestock. So it would have been the bacteria, the virus, the fungus, which is a mycotoxin, and the parasites, which are this one, right? So example of some parasites. We will do a version for you to be emailed. Yes. All right. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be here for the explanation, because a lot of this stuff that I'm explaining is actually part and parcel of the slide. So the slide only gives you the point. The workshop gives you the explanation, right? So very important. Okay. Okay, sure. Well, make sure and try to keep it on actually the sound, so you can hear the rest of the workshop. All right. At least try that. Okay, great. Awesome. I like the interaction. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Super dupes. So ticks and mites. So these would be your parasites. And when we say parasites, really, they would be the ones that you can see. These are the more physical ones. Also, the fungus, you can see the mold. You can see the mold more regularly. Okay. No problem. No problem. So we'll definitely tackle that. All right. The mold is unlike the virus and the bacteria. The mold, you can see that because more often than not, they are visible. They are colored. Okay. Guys, just excuse me for one quick second. I'll be all right, guys. Apologies for that again. Right. So there we go. So where are we now? So yes. So the ticks and the mites are the few that you're visible, and the mold gives a discoloration of whatever material that is on. So you may get gray and black, sometimes a dark green as well. Okay, so you want to pay attention to those things as well. Very importantly, so let's get into the ticks and the mites. So they are caused by protozoan. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But you find protozoans typically in dampy areas close to a lot of bush as well, right? And even with your water quality, your protozoans are brought in also by different types of water, all right? So you want to be able to really pay attention to that. And most of them, right, correct, yes, amoebas are examples of protozoa, correct, and they are found in water. Most of them invade the intestinal tract. Some invade the organs like liver and kidney. So guys, I think you're all realizing how bad these are, because they get into the liver. You know what happens with the liver and the kidney? Once that goes in there, boom, they're dead. That's high mortality rates, right? Many strains are immune to current antibiotic due to overuse, right?